you feel stuck, if you're like, I don't know what to do with my life, but you want better and you just feel like you're ready to explode, well, it's time for a transformation. And it's time to really break it down in a no BS approach. And it's time to get it in gear. Let's go. Check it out. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Positivity Experience. It's your girl, Lori, and man, I am recording this right before the holiday. I celebrate Christmas, so right before Christmas. This is coming out after Christmas. I'm hoping I had a good Christmas. I'm hoping all of you did, even if it was a little stressful, because sometimes the holidays are not always joyful for some, but it's the mindset shift. And we are here. You're on the other side of it now, so it's a good thing. And now, more than any, is a great time to start about transformation. I'm going to tell you ahead of time, this is a no BS approach. So it's not going to be super gentle, but it's going to be extremely effective if you allow it to be. Now, I did a really robust worksheet to go along with this to really dig even deeper to help you set them. If that's your jam, it's over on Patreon, and that's patreon.com/the positivity experience, or you can click that link anywhere that you're getting this podcast right now. And I'm super excited for you and for myself, although I thought about strangling my husband because he's more than annoying to point out all of the things that I have now committed to. And he goes, okay, are you doing your goals? Are you doing all of the things? And I'm like, oh my God, it's much easier to tell everybody about it than to do the damn thing. And he goes, yeah, that's a bullshit excuse. And it's time to get it in gear. I'm like, I know. And he knew that I was just messing with him. But kind of, because it's overwhelming and you're looking for these fast fixes. I will tell you, there are no fast fixes. There's no one coming to save you. I'm sure you've heard that a million times. No one's coming to save you. And it's a true statement. What are you looking at in your life that you think all of a sudden answers are just going to appear because somebody is going to come into your life and save you? And this isn't even just from personal relationships. This is expectations. Listening to this podcast, anybody's podcast, reading books, anybody's books, watching social media, anybody's social media, and looking for answers, and you will find them, having the answers, and then incorporating it. See, that's where the disconnect is. Oh, I want this stuff. Oh, God, that's hard. So you're waiting for someone to come and fix it financially, fix it all of these ways, and it isn't happening. So you can really understand the concept of no one's coming to save you. And yes, including the people in your life. Yes, including the past. All of these things that you're thinking, if this person would just do this and just come and rescue me, well, that's not going to happen. So as you're going through this, it's not just that. It's your comfort zone. You're living in your comfort zone. You are your biggest roadblock. And it's going to take sacrifice. And that's what we're going to talk about today. This is going to encourage you to really go deeper with what it is that you want. Another thing that I'm putting over on that worksheet is really understanding how to set a boundary based on what it is that you need. I also have a boundaries podcast, a core values podcast that is going to be pivotal. And you have access to that. Like you can go back and look at it or listen to it or watch it on YouTube. But it's up to you to decide, what does transformation look like for you? So before I even get into the tips, what is it that you want to transform? Before you say this, my body, all of these things, why do you want to transform them? So you got to say, okay, this is what I want, but why do you want it? And then say, am I chasing it to make me feel better? Because that's a big one. People think if I have this, I'm going to be so happy. That's not why you do it. You're doing it to be mindful. You're doing it to be present. You're doing it because you're allowing yourself to be your first priority. That's where you're going to find out what it is that you want to transform. Because very often, and this is for everybody, myself included. Now, I am way more aware of it now, so I don't do this nearly as much as I did before. It creeps up every now and again. I just have to kind of say, hey, what are you trying to tell me? Is that fast fix? Is that if I have this, I will be happy? And then you start moving the goalpost. Or you think if I do this, then everybody in my life is going to be happy. And that's not why you want to transform. This is not about, what we're talking about today is not about anybody else. It really isn't. Big issue is that you are trying to make it make sense to people around you. You're trying to not hurt people's feelings. Well, if you're worried about not hurting people's feelings, that's already one of these on here that we're going to discuss, because people are going to have hurt feelings. People are going to feel slighted the moment that you put yourself as a priority. Not everybody. Some people will be very encouraging, but some people will not. So right here, if you're like, well, I want to get through this transformation, I want to continue that for the rest of my life, but I want everybody to be okay, then you're not ready for the transformation. And that's just the fact. So right now, as you're listening to this before we go in the new year, and I hate to say resolutions, but whatever, it's a good starting point. Don't use this as a resolution, but really get serious as to what you want to transform and why that is. And this can go even deeper. And you got to ask yourself, are there, and we're going to talk about it here, but are there relationships? Are there habits? What are there in your life that you're looking to transform? And be honest with yourself. Because the comfort zone I was speaking about, nothing grows in the comfort zone. It just lives there. There's no scenario where you stay in the comfort zone and you grow. Those two things don't live in the same universe. So if you're not willing to be uncomfortable, if you're not willing to walk into the unknown and accept the unknown is where everything works out. Because everything in the unknown always works out. It just doesn't always work the way you want it to. No, it could teach you a lesson. You could be like, oh my God, that was a disaster. Yeah, okay. But it taught you things. And that wasn't like, oh, don't make a decision, which is one of these in here. So let's jump into it. I'm going to give you 5, and there's a hell of a lot more, but this is going to cover a lot of them. And this is going to address those things I said to you in the beginning. You being your own roadblock, because my God, we sabotage ourselves on a regular basis. I mean, it is us. And when you own that it's you, this is a good thing. People have a hard time taking accountability. They want it to be why they can't, something in their past, their ADHD, all of these things. Like you're looking for reasons that it's not going to work. It will make it more difficult, not gonna lie, but it's doable. So if you automatically go into that, you're setting these excuses in motion for yourself and you're literally saying, I'm not capable. And that's not true. You just got to be willing to be uncomfortable. And yes, everybody learns differently, by the way. Some people, they can read a book and they're like, yep, I understand it all. I am not that person. I can read a book. I can get the gist of it. I mean, my ADHD lets my eyes do the moving and my brain's like, what am I making for dinner? So then I just have to bring it back. I am a better hands-on. You sit with me and you say, now that's different. However, with editing software, recording this podcast, I am hands-on, but I did have to read it to understand it in the beginning. So, and there's a combination that can happen, reading and hands-on. But hands-on is so important, just like writing in your journals with a pen and pad, not an iPad, not a voice notes, but pen to pad. And this is just psychologically proven, much like hands-on. So that goes into this as well. You can listen to this and you can be inspired, but what the hell are you going to do about it? Because I promise you, pretty much, I'm willing to bet every single person listening to this podcast in this moment today has tried things, has made task lists, have said, I'm going to schedule my time. I'm going to start these things. I'm going to do these things. And here we are, we're still doing the same stuff because you like having the knowledge and you should have the knowledge. Knowledge is something people cannot ever take away from you. But knowledge without action, it's just there. And so this is why you have to commit. And we're going to talk about sacrificing and commitment here in a moment. Number 1 that you're going to put at this list is stop seeking validation from others. This is going to be something that you're not just going to listen to this and be like, yep, by the end of 2024, I'll be all better. No, nobody said that. But you got to be consistent and then go deeper, which is what I do with a lot of my clients. You know, again, I have clients all over the world. It doesn't matter where you are. Very often you have the same exact issues. That's why it's really good. It's kind of a universal approach. But you got to say, why am I seeking validation from others? Okay. Insecurity, fear of rejection, abandonment. There are some core reasons. And I don't think that's groundbreaking. I think you already know that. But here's the thing. The reason that is so problematic and has been up to this point is you are prioritizing other people's opinions and mindset about you or your actions over your own. So you got to say, am I willing to make decisions, good, bad, or indifferent? Am I willing to really, like I said, make people a little upset, have them, and this is going to happen, not might. Some people are going to do this. I have the script. I can tell you, I've been doing this well over decades, and there is a chronic script. Narcissists have a script. Guilt trippers have a script. Positive mindset people have a script. And when I say a script, it's kind of a go-to. So when you have people who, after so long, you've given them, and this, I followed this up specifically on the enmeshment podcast that we just did last week. Go back to that. Because if you're enmeshed with someone or a situation, pretty much it's somebody, you are worried about their perspective of your life. And you got to go deeper in saying, why do I feel that way? And I'm going to tell you one of those reasons right now is you don't know who you are. I mean, that's just straight up and down. Because if you're seeking somebody else's validation and their opinions of your life, you're like, help me figure out who I am. That goes back to no one's coming to save you. No one is coming into your life to really live your life. Now, they want to live your life. They want to control your life. We know this. But if you're waiting for someone to come to show you the way, now I'm going to give you tools. You're going to find tools from a lot of people. But again, how are you going to use them? You have to be willing to sit in silence. That's right. Subtle silence. Solid silence. You have to be willing to not distract yourself with social media, not always staying busy. You have got to allow yourself to sit in a place and go, who the hell am I? Because until you do that, you will always seek somebody else's approval. And this will keep you in a stuck cycle because you're always going to go after that. Now we're going to insert people pleasing because you're like, oh my God, help me, help me. So you'd rather people be there. So you're willing to bend over backwards and fit into various boxes. So you're chronically seeking this over and over and over again. That's not transformational. That's keeping you in a stuck cycle. It's keeping you in low self-esteem. It's keeping you extremely depressed at times, not necessarily clinical, situationally. And it's so difficult because it keeps you in that cycle of pleasing others. I've got to serve others. I got to please others. I want you to identify one area of your life right now where you are afraid of what others think. Just one area right now. Sit and evaluate it. I'm worried about blank. I want to make this change. Maybe it's a move for a job. Maybe it's getting out of a relationship. Maybe it's getting in a relationship. Maybe it's disconnecting from things. Maybe it's no longer watching your grandkids every Friday. Who knows? But one thing that you need right now, and you're afraid of what others think of you, and I want you to act on it. I want you to act on it. Be uncomfortable. Do not over-explain. When you catch yourself over-explaining, well, I'm putting myself as a priority these days, and no. No is a complete sentence. You do not have to go into detail. Now, it's always good to let someone know. Like, don't just sight unseen, just start instilling a boundary and nobody knows. So you can say, I am prioritizing myself. I will not be watching the grandkids every Friday. You do have to ask me, don't just assume. If you keep assuming, I'm not going to do it at all. Again, you have to be willing to kind of rub people the wrong way because for so long, you've not had boundaries. For so long, you've had wishy-washy boundaries. They're selective. They're sometimes here. They're sometimes not. And you have to accept that people are going to think you're rude. They're going to say you're extra. They're going to go down all of these things. And some people will get super manipulative and controlling and will try to keep kids from you. Will try to say, well, I'm not going to talk to you anymore and make passive aggressive Facebook posts. That's going to happen. Let me promise you that. If you're not willing to do that, then it's going to be hard for you to do transformation. And that's why you got to get real serious with yourself. Now, number 2, and I love this, and this is so hard for so many people. And listen, it was hard for me. right? I didn't just wake up this way. You guys know that. Like I said, I'm writing about it. I was not this person. I wanted it to be the childhood. I wanted it to be mom passing. I wanted it to be the molestation. I wanted it to be my mental stuff. I wanted it to be my dad being an alcoholic. Like I wanted this so bad to be something that someone can save me from or feel sorry for me. Now, you don't know that at 15. You're not like, oh my God, feel sorry for me. But there was this sense for me of people, I don't know why. And I mean, I'm 15, right? So I mean, take that for what it is. And you're already a teen and you're already angsty. You throw all that stuff in there. It was like I felt that because I had I had a shitty childhood, that in some ways people were supposed to help me. They were supposed to come and save me. So I was putting that accountability on others. This does not mean that stuff did not happen. This does not mean I'm nullifying it, but I had to. And if you're ready to make this transformation, you're going to have to too. And that's taking full accountability for where you are today. Not how you got here, not the trauma, not the narcissist. We understand that is real and you did not ask for that. So let's just get clear on that. However, you are here now. And when I say what choices, it's not like, oh, you put yourself in this position. That's not what I mean. Today, what decisions, what actions have you taken to stay in this space? Maybe it's a victim space. Maybe it's a constant chronic thought pattern. Maybe it's always self-sabotage, right? Now, these are all things that you can work through. This isn't a life sentence. These are things you can work through. But when you take accountability for where you are owning your role in current circumstances without excuses or blaming others. See, the blaming others is going to hold you back. When you're blaming others and you're waiting for apologies and you're waiting for whys, you are literally saying, please continue to rule my life. And I can tell you that's just factual. I was waiting for my cousins. Like I said, and I've said this to you before, when I was 31, I just remember this specifically. And I came back here from New York and I went and talked to a cousin who's since passed because she was like 24 years older than me. I've born to older parents. And I remember saying, did you guys know what was happening in my house with my dad? And she said, yes, we all knew, but your father kept you from us, which really was not a lie. And again, I need you to go back in time though. Like go back to the 80s. The internet was not a thing. Well, later on in the 80s it was, but that was DOS and dial-up and it was crazy. But none of the social media, none of, hey, stand up, show up. It was more like, ooh, what stays behind closed doors? Yes, CPS was there. Think of the 80s. So I need you to get into the timeline. And I thought, well, you know what? They didn't have to do anything about it. Like I'm 31 now. I'm 31 years old. It does not matter to me who didn't show up. It does not matter to me what did and did not happen because I am here today. And it is my responsibility. It just clicked. I have no idea why. I wasn't like in full healing. It just something about it. I can tell you where I was. I can tell you where I was sitting. And it was just like, boom, it hit me. And I was like, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter why nobody said anything or did anything because I'm here today. And what can I do today? I need to be accountable for my decisions. I need to be accountable for my lack of effort. I didn't say beat myself up because that's never a good thing. You're not going to beat yourself into submission. That's not going to be effective for you. But when you take accountability, you are pulling back so much power that you've been given away. Real change is going to start when you acknowledge that you have power to shift things. Listen, you're not just going to listen to this and be like, all right, I'm done. I'm out. I got in this shitty marriage. It's time to bounce. I'm leaving today. Well, no, you can't just sight unseen roll out. Now, listen, some of you can. Some of you have the means to do that. So some of you can. But very often you have to look and say, okay, I'm here now. What can I take accountability for in my circumstances right now? Do I want to get out of this? And am I avoiding trying to find the way? Because so many people stay, I'm not talking about because you've been manipulatively abused. You can just check out. It doesn't always have to be some malevolent thing. And you can say, what am I not doing? that's in my power? Well, you can start looking for ways to get out. You can start researching. You can talk to a free lawyer. You can have a lawyer and say, okay, what does this out look like? We have 2 houses. We have all of these things. What's our financials? A lot of times you're not doing it because it's effort. You're like, I don't know where to begin. You go to the free lawyer. You look up Google. You say, what can I do? Who can I access? What are some questions? That's where I say take accountability. Because if not, listen, nobody likes to do shit that's going to be mundane. Nobody likes to do taxes. Nobody likes to get out of a relationship or a business partnership where it's going to take all this effort. But you got to say what's important to you. And that's why taking accountability is going to help you. And that is so important. Because when you're acknowledging that, you got to write down 3 decisions right now. Pause this. Pause real quick. Go get a pen and pad. Don't do the shit in your head. Go get a pen and pad. I want you to write down 3 decisions or actions that you have taken to this point that have contributed to where you are now. That you've contributed to, not everybody else. And remember, this is not, oh, you're blaming yourself. No, this is called acknowledgement. If you're not willing to look within yourself and not look at yourself as a victim, you're not going to transform. Not now, not next year, and not 5 years from now. So look right now and literally write down 3 things that have contributed. And this could be procrastination. This could be taking on too much, meaning, oh, I'm trying to change everything at once. It doesn't have to be some big giant over the top thing. What are 3 things that you have contributed to where you are today? And then also underneath that, how will you approach it differently moving forward? And fast fixes aren't it. Not fast. Not, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to shit can everything. I'm no longer eating not that ain't it. So this forces you to really go deeper into not only what you want, but looking and say, how am I contributing to this? Because it's real easy to blame everybody else. And that's going to keep you stuck every single day. Every single day. And in order to do that, you have to go to number 3. And that's ditching perfectionism. I have an entire podcast on perfectionism. Perfectionism's not real. It does not exist. And you're chasing something that's unattainable. So there's no set thing that says, well, this is perfect. It's not this gold standard that you get this postcard in the mail and it says, all right, everybody, these are the goals that you're going to make and you're going to be perfect. That's not real. Because everybody's version of what they need is a hell of a lot different than what you think it is. And you got to ditch it and look at it as progress. So going back into what I just said a little bit ago about taking accountability, if you're going, okay, I have contributed to this because I've stayed in this cycle of always wanting to lose weight and always wanting to do these things. And I keep doing the same thing over and over again, which is the definition of insanity. And I'm doing these things. And now you've written down, oh, okay, I can see how I've done this. Very often you're not starting, not only because it's overwhelming, but because you're trying to do this shit perfect. Yeah. What do you mean? If you're not, I'm going to tell you this straight up. If you're not willing to fail, failure is a beautiful, beautiful tool that you keep avoiding. If you're not willing to do that, if you're not willing to go, ooh, I got to address this. Okay, I thought I knew this. Maybe I don't know this. If you're not willing to talk to your boss or somebody at work and say, I don't understand this because you suddenly don't want to look like you don't know, then you're going to chronically be in a space of stress. And perfectionism, by the way, is procrastination disguised as productivity. Really hear that. Perfectionism is procrastination disguised as productivity. And the reason I snicker is because I would do this for so long. Well, okay. Well, I need to be productive. I need to do these things, but it's too much. And in turn, you procrastinate by it. What does that mean? Well, go back to my micro goals podcast, which I think is episode 50. I could be extremely wrong, but it's there. It's absolutely there. Micro goaling is the key. And smart goaling, which is specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound, which those 2 podcasts are back to back. And that's so important because in order to do these things and in order to have progress, You have to focus on small, consistent actions instead of perfection, which means you are going to have to choose one thing that you've been putting off because you're like, oh, it isn't ready. Oh, it's not ready. And do it messy. Do that shit messy. Take one step today. Oh, I was going to write this. Trust me, I have so many different manuscripts of my book, like different things. And there for a minute, I was just like, it was almost like a paralyzation, not because I didn't know what I was doing, but because I was like, okay, these are all the things I need to put in. This is all the things I want to put in. Too much thought, too much thinking. In turn, it takes you out of who you are. All of a sudden, you're like, oh my God, I got to do this. I got to do that. And you're just not going to do it because you think, well, I screwed that up. Good. I'm glad you screwed that up. How the hell do you think you're going to learn? But seriously, what do you think? You're going to pick up a pickleball racket and you're going to go out there and you're going to be like, boom, I've studied it. I've researched it. I'm going to kill the game. No, you're not. You're going to suck. You're going to look ridiculous out there. You might even hurt your arm. Good. So get up and do it again. It's not showing up for yourself when you feel like it. It's showing up for yourself when you don't feel like it. Listen, you're going to go gung-ho. You're going to hear this podcast. We're going into the new year. You're going to have do not have a resolution. Just get that out of your head right now. You can have goals, not resolutions. And you are going to be like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. And it's going to seem great until you're 3 weeks in, 4 weeks in. And you're going to be like, well, this sucks. Who cares? Do that shit anyway. That's what matters, is how you show up for yourself. And you deserve to show up for your tomorrow self. And that means don't worry about being perfect. It's progress. And you know what? You're not going to hit it out the park. My goal in life for all of the things I share with you is to meet it 80% of the times for myself. Listen, sometimes I'm like, damn, I'm at 110% and sometimes I'm at 60%, but I want to average 80%. And that's okay because I'm not always going to kill it that day, but I'm going to give myself grace and I'm going to go, ooh, did I sit in excuses? Ooh, I see what I did there. I put an excuse on myself because I didn't feel like doing it. And not feeling like doing it is one of the biggest excuses you're ever going to have in your life. So that's why you got to choose one thing. This one is so important. And this one we're going deeper in on the worksheet because it needs its own thing on top of the regular boundaries. It's creating boundaries that stick. Create, and I know you know this. I know you hear me say it. I know you hear everybody else say it. And the reason you hear a lot of us repeat the same things is there's only so many ways to change, right? You don't go seeking from me to this person to that person because you're looking for this aha moment. Now you will get aha moments, but what are you going to do? Like there isn't this uncovered secret mission. No, these are ground rules, ground starting points, the foundation of where transformation exists. And if you have to hear it from 16 people and go, damn, they say the same thing, because that's what you need. You can't reinvent the wheel. You can make a wheel look different. You can change the rims. You can make the rubber better. You can make the treads better. You can do all of those things, but guess what? You're not reinventing the wheel. So all of those pretty cute things can make it more functional, can do these things, but you're not recreating it and you're not going to recreate how you can transform. You're just not going to do it. So you have to enforce limits on your time, your energy, and relationships without guilt or compromise. A boundary is not, you're not compromising a boundary. And here's a deeper question too. And again, there's a podcast on guilt. Thinking about setting a boundary. And again, boundaries are not individual. Boundaries are not, well, this is the boundary for my mom. And this is a boundary for John. No, that is not a boundary because your boundaries are not set for other people. Your boundaries are set for you. Your boundaries are protecting your own peace. But that's what I'm saying. You can't set a boundary out of emotion and you can't set a boundary, which would be like somebody pissing you off and now you're mad and I'm never going to talk to them again. That's not a boundary. That's an emotion. You never make decisions out of emotion. A boundary is literally, is my time valuable to me? I don't care who it's for. Is my time valuable? What am I willing to do to protect that peace? And what are the consequences that I will apply if they are not adhered to? That's a boundary. That's a boundary, not set in emotion. And if you don't know what you need, you can't set a boundary that's going to stick. If you don't know that your time is important to you, that your individual time is important to you, you are never going to create a boundary that sticks because you're kind of creating it on the fly. Well, I don't like this. Well, I don't like that. Again, you're not setting it in emotion. You're setting it in factual. Look at yourself on a piece of paper. Put yourself there. What do I need for myself? Not these people around you. What do I need for myself to enhance my growth? What can I eliminate or keep to a minimum? How will I do that for myself? And how will I show up for myself? And how do I need to protect it by setting parameters for people, like for yourself? Think of it as an electric fence. You're creating an electric fence around you. I don't want to make it seem like you're putting a wall by you. I'm just giving you an example here. You don't want to set walls. So you start doing this fence. I've used this example before. For whatever reason, you're making a fence around your house with no opening towards the front of the house. The gate opening is in the back of the house. Okay. You might be like, well, that's a stupid design. For whatever reason, that's what you like. And you've created this. Now your mom comes over, your friend comes over, and they're like, where the hell, why is there no entrance here? That's the dumbest shit I've ever seen in my life. So they have to go around back. And they come in and they're like, well, that's a stupid ass design. That doesn't make any sense. Why is this gate opening back here? Well, because that's how I wanted it to be. Well, it's a dumb design. Well, it's not for you to like it. So you're not going to move the gate opening because mom and John and your best friend thinks it's stupid. You liked it that way. That's how it's going to be. If they don't like it, they don't have to show up. But I promise you this, month, 2 months, 3 months down the road, they're not even going to think about it. They're just going to walk right there and they're going to come in the door. So when you set a boundary, people have choices. They can either get on board with these boundaries. Now, by the way, this also pertains to you. You don't have to like somebody else's boundaries, but if you can't adhere to them, you got to check yourself. So you will set a boundary and people have choices. They can either align with it, they can respect it, and they don't have to respect it. They just don't have to be in your space. So if you want to build that boundary that people don't understand, like you would an electric fence, if they try to go over that front fence, they're like, screw that. I'm not going to go around back. I see that they set this fence. I'm jumping over this fence anyway. That's an electric fence. That shit's going to electrocute them. Not electrocute them to death, but it's going to electrocute them. And then they're going to go, ow, your fence is so stupid. It hurt me. No. I don't know what to tell you. You touched it. This is my boundary. So that's where the consequences will come into play. What are the consequences? What consequences will you put in place without being repetitive? You don't have to sit there and explain to somebody, well, this is why I put the gate opening back here and it's easier because I park close. Why are we given details? Why are we waiting for them to approve you? Your boundaries are not for anybody else's approval. And if you don't know what they are, you can't enforce them. Without a boundary, you are allowing others' priorities to dominate your life. If you put it there because that's the fence you wanted and you wanted the entrance back here in the backyard and your mom hates it and Jennifer hates it, and you say, well, you know what? Okay, I'm going to move it. That you're choosing that. That goes back to that other one. What are you choosing to be in your situation? So now you've changed this fence because everybody wants it to be convenient for them. And you're like, oh, this is so inconvenient for me. You did that to yourself. This goes into comfort zone. This goes into nobody's coming to save you. And this also goes into you being your biggest roadblock. You put these roadblocks in front of yourself because you're afraid to piss somebody off. You're afraid to make these choices and these decisions. Why? Why? If you don't deem yourself as a priority, why not? Well, we know shitty people before you, shitty situations. Today, what can you do today to work on accepting that you deserve to be your first priority? And now you don't have to be everybody else's priority. No, but you do got to be your first priority. You don't want to be somebody's first priority. Ew, that's going to lead into enmeshment. You do not want that. You just really don't. So you got to identify one boundary right now. Let's do this together. I want you to identify one boundary that you allow other people's priorities to dominate your life. And then sit with it and say, what do I need to set with this person, this situation, or this habit? Because it can also be about you. What boundary can you set within your own habits? So it isn't always, like I said, boundaries aren't for people. They're for you. So if that means your boundary is, I need to meditate for myself. I have a habit of grabbing the phone after dinner and scrolling. That's your habit. What boundary are you going to put in place for your habit? Don't negotiate it. Well, if I have a bad day, or you know what, I'll only do this right before bed. Why are we negotiating? What boundary will you put into play? I have clients who will take their phone and put it in the car while they meditate because they do not have the wherewithal in the beginning. Then it doesn't matter. Then their self-discipline comes. Then they will grab it after they meditate. I have clients who take social media apps off their phone and they'll log it in every couple days or 15 minutes out of the day, do what they got to do, and then they take it off again. You have to put in boundaries for yourself. Don't just assume, oh, I'm not going to social media as much. The hell you're not. Why? Because you're telling yourself that? What actions can you take? What boundaries can you put in your life? So that goes to the fifth one. Commit to change. Okay, that seems easy. It isn't. Or you wouldn't be listening to it. It isn't. Or you wouldn't feel like every year you're not meeting your goals. So don't say it's easy, because if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. But I want you to commit to one change, not 15 of them. And this is where sacrifice comes into play. If you're looking for instant gratification, if you're doing things with the wrong intention, if you're going to the gym and eating healthier to lose weight, that's the wrong intention. If you're doing it for fast fixes, that's not, your intentions aren't going to be a thing. If you go back 2 weeks ago, there's a reason I put these in succession that talks about intention. What does an intention even look like for yourself? How can you even follow it with an intention? Because real change requires confronting something in yourself that you've been avoiding. Relationships, actions, habits, beliefs. This is challenging you. If you have to look at somebody, if you feel jealous of people, if you feel behind in time, it's putting a mirror against you. A lot of times you feel behind because you're in perfectionism. You're trying to reach some weird time frame that you've put in your head. Hard pass. Hard pass. So you got to commit to change and say, get honest and say, what am I avoiding? What am I avoiding? What is it that I have sabotaged myself in, that I've waited for maybe somebody or something to come save me, waiting for it to be easier, doing the easy things in the beginning of the week, and then postponing like heavier things at the end of the week? Why not flip that? Oh, because it's hard. Stop telling yourself it's hard. Life is hard. Are you going to stay in the hard of being repetitive and stuck, but knowing that that's your comfort zone? Or are you going to be willing to get out of your comfort zone, face your excuses, make it make sense to you in a slow fashion? You're not making 16 changes. One change, and it doesn't have to be a big change. It can be a small change right now. Nothing's really small, but that's fine. You got to remember, transformation is only going to happen when you are willing to face discomfort. That's what you're going to have to understand. Confidence does not come and then you do the things. That's not ever going to happen. You gain confidence by doing the things and doing them uncomfortable. You first start driving. Well, you're not going to have a lot of confidence after you've done it. You're not going to have a lot of confidence with setting boundaries until you do it. And I promise you, it will become such a pleasurable thing. No, as a complete sentence, will be your favorite go-to over a period of time. Not over-explaining. Well, I want to have confidence to not over-explain. Well, you're going to have to face it. You're going to have to face somebody calling you rude. You're going to have to face being the villain. That's how you gain confidence. Never before. You never prep yourself to be like, I'm ready. You're not. You're not. Because you've played it out in your head. You've played scenarios out in your head. So I want you to identify one hard truth right now, in your life and commit to addressing it. But then I want you to micro-step it this week. Not next week, this week. And honestly, that's how you're going to transform your life. And you know what I like to do, and I like to do it even like each quarter. Okay, let me evaluate this. Did I take on a change for the wrong reason? Did I not have a plan? Did I find that I gave myself all these excuses? What is it that I need to correct? What is it? What actions have I led to my current circumstances? So if I'm always feeling like I'm not reaching my goals, I must take ownership of that. What am I doing or not doing that's contributing to this, and how can I change it? And that's how you're going to gain transformation. And that's a transformation that will resonate and stay for the rest of your life. If, big if here, you are consistent. If you are constantly in evaluation, if you're in constant growth mode, there should never be a time in your life that you feel like you've met your goals. And when I say met your goals is, okay, I've grown. This is it. This is great. I don't have to do this anymore. That's not real. You're going to shift for the rest of your natural born life. Accept that now. Because if you don't, you're going to keep chasing people, things, situations, and fast fixes. And you deserve that. Not that. You deserve to show up for yourself. You deserve to be your priority. You deserve to, you know what? If people don't like it, they can roll out, and vice versa. Vice versa. If you're not willing to accept the boundaries that somebody puts into play, you don't have to, but then you have to roll out. You can't have it both ways. What you want also pertains to you. It's not a one-sided situation. So with that being said, I say, let's get it together here. You deserve to show up for yourself. But before you can do that, you got to sit with yourself and say, why do I feel like I'm not a priority? We understand it's trauma. What can you do today? Hell, book a session with me, book a session with somebody. What can you do today to work on the things that are preventing you from figuring out who you are, from figuring out your core values, from figuring these things out? You got to address that before you can start making all these transformations. And I know it sucks. I know you want to jump right in. I know you want to do it. Not if you're building it on a house of cards. You're not going to build a foundation on sand. It's not going to happen. Oh, it might start. It's not going to last. So you got to be willing to, before you even get to there, you look and say, why am I afraid of making decisions? Why do I care what other people think? Why do I feel the need to over-explain? Why am I in people pleasing? Evaluate that. Get yourself in a place where you understand it, or all of these transformations aren't going to happen. So you got to step it back. Show up for yourself, even if you're not sure how that looks right now. And let's start digging into the deeper roots, all right? Because you deserve that, and you deserve transformation, but you got to know who you are first. Give yourself compassion. But you know what? Let's do the damn thing. Check it out.